Hello all you freedom-loving people. Welcome to another episode of Front Page. I'm your host, Scott Cameron Goulet. Former Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice stated back in 2012 that the crisis in K-12 education is our greatest national security crisis today. This still holds true now. Parents working from home suddenly find their children being indoctrinated with shocking ideologies. This is not only true for public schools, but also for students in expensive private schools. A long list of mainstream journalists who sing the praises of the Chinese Communist Party has come to light. They are all paid to write hymns for tyranny. And finally, we have some exciting news for you today. Okay, let's get into it. A growing number of parents are getting together to find ways to block the spread of the quasi-Marxist critical race theory in schools. Critical race theory has been spreading throughout academia, entertainment, government, schools, and corporations. It redefines America's history as a struggle between oppressors, the white people, and the oppressed, everybody else. This is similar to Marxism's reduction of human history to a struggle between the bourgeoisie and the proletariat. It labels institutions that emerge in major white societies as systemically or structurally racist. Parents see the doctrine as a culprit in creating a toxic environment and exacerbating problems it claims to alleviate. Most people are unaware of the critical race theory issue due to its being dressed up as equity, anti-racist, or culturally responsive initiatives. However, it was the remote learning due to the pandemic that allowed parents to learn about what their children are being taught. The lessons raised red flags and parents are pushing back against it. The Parents Against Critical Theory, the PACT, in Loudoun County, Virginia, is one of the groups against critical race theory. One parent, who was asked to remain anonymous because of concerns about reprisals, told the Epoch Times, "We're seeing what our kids are learning, and our goal changes from opening schools to, oh my gosh, what are we sending our children back to?" Once parents learn what critical race theory is, they often disagree. The parent said, basically, they're categorizing children by race to determine the quality of education each will have, which is absolutely unacceptable. She said her children won't be returning to that school. A widespread video shows a teacher during a virtual class pushing a student to pay attention to racial differences, accusing the student of being intentionally coy by refusing. Let's listen to the video dialogue.
It's just two people chilling.
Right, just two people. That's nothing more to that picture?
Nah, not really. Just two people chilling.
I don't believe that you believe that. I don't believe that you look at this as just two people. I don't think
Truly
you can
is
look
just
at
two
this as
people,
just
though,
two
is it
people.
not?
Yeah, but I think you're being intentionally coy about what this is a picture of.
What would I be being coy about? It's two people standing back to back in a picture.
Yeah, and that's all you see is two people.
Well, I'm confused. Are you trying to get me to say that there are two different races in this picture?
Yes,
Is that
I
what
am
you
asking
want
you
me
to
to
say
say? Well, at the end of the day, wouldn't that just be feeding into the problem of looking at race instead of just acknowledging them as two normal people?
No, it's not, because you can't look at the people and not acknowledge that there are racial differences, right?
But if we're going for, let's say if we're looking for equality within all this, then why would we need to point out things such as that?
The existence of systemic racism is usually claimed based on contrasting outcomes for different groups, such as lower average test scores or more detentions for black students. The Virginia Department of Education is moving to eliminate all accelerated math options prior to 11th grade. It will keep higher achieving students from advancing as they usually would in the school system. The Virginia Department of Education's website states various goals like improve equity in mathematics learning opportunities, empower students to be active participants in a quantitative world, and identify K-12 mathematics pathways that support future success. Experts say the argument is misleading. Wilfred Reilly, a political scientist at Kentucky State University, said, "Every system you could possibly think of produces some kind of racial or sexual or class discrepancy, and this allows the radicals to be radical eternally and to claim that everything is racist." A Loudoun parent who spoke on the condition of anonymity, worried that the changes would lower standards for all students in the name of equity. Ian Pryor, another Loudoun parent and former Trump administration official, also panned the move as a way to, quote, stifle advancement for gifted students and set them back as they prepare for advanced mathematics in college. This is critical race theory in action, and parents should be outraged. While the movement against critical race theory started locally, the response has been national. One parent said, the messages, the prayers, the thanks, the donations are actually coming from all across the country. Similar initiatives have been forming in recent months, such as Parents Defending Education, founded earlier this year by civil liberties advocate Nicole Neely. Florida is working on a civics curriculum that will explicitly exclude critical race theory. A teacher from an elite school in New York City is also taking action. A math teacher from an elite Manhattan school released an audio recording of the school's principal admitting to demonizing white people. The audio clips released by the Foundation Against Intolerance and Racism is a conversation between Paul Rossi, a math teacher at Grace Church School, and George Davison, the school's principal. In the recording, Davison acknowledges Rossi's allegation that the school is teaching white students that they are inherently evil.
So you agree that we're demonizing kids?
We're demonizing we're demonizing white people for being born.
And are some of our students white people?
What?
Are some of our students white people?
Yes.
Okay, so we're demonizing white kids. Why don't you just say it?
We are using language that makes them feel less than. For nothing that they are personally responsible for.
Grace Church School is a K-12 school with annual tuition of up to $55,000. The school's language guidelines suggest using guardian instead of mom and dad. Merry Christmas is also classified as a non-inclusive, sensitive word. Paul Rossi wrote an article explaining why he became a whistleblower. I know that by attaching my name to this, I'm risking not only my current job, but my career as an educator, since most schools, both public and private, are now captive to this backward ideology. But witnessing the harmful impact it has on children, I can't stay silent. Rossi said Grace Church School, like so many others, induces students via shame and sophistry to identify primarily with their race before their individual identities have fully formed. Students are pressured to conform their opinions to those broadly associated with their race and gender, and to minimize or dismiss individual experiences that don't match those assumptions. He argued that all of this is done in the name of equity, but it is the opposite of fair. In reality, all of this reinforces the worst impulses we have as human beings, our tendency towards tribalism and sectarianism that truly liberal education is meant to transcend. Speaking publicly about the school's internal rules was not Rossi's first choice. He has made his concerns clear to the school's administration many times over the past few years. Even his attempts to expose students to alternative viewpoints in the classroom have been repeatedly shut down. The school rejected his internal efforts in such a way that he finally had to speak out. 2 days after Rossi's article was published, Grace Church School fired Rossi and told him he is no longer welcome in the building without prior coordination. On April 21st, the National Pulse unearthed documents from the CCP propaganda agency China-United States Exchange Foundation. The documents reveal a list of mainstream journalists who participated in tours organized by the agency and paid to write propaganda articles. Such trips are often organized before opinion pieces and news reports are published that excuse the CCP's crimes or oppose trade shutdowns with the regime. We previously reported that the China-United States Exchange Foundation aims to, quote, neutralize sources of potential opposition to the policies and authority of the Chinese government. It uses influence operation tactics or mainstream journalists. from virtually every Western media outlet: CNN, New York Times, MSNBC, The Washington Post, and many more. According to the Foreign Agent Registration Act filings, the China-United States Exchange Foundation retained Western lobbyists to aid in their quest to promote positive messages to the media, key influencers, and the general public regarding China. The China-United States Exchange Foundation newsletter from 2009 and 2010 reveals the following journalists: Vox co-founder and New York Times columnist Ezra Klein, Vox co-founder Matthew Iglesias, CNN senior political analyst and The Atlantic senior editor Ronald Brownstein, New York Times reporter Bradford Plumer, Associate Press Vice President and Editor Marjorie Miller, The Hill Editor-at-Large Steve Clemens, former NPR Senior Editor Marilyn Gieswax, former Newsweek and Wall Street Journal Marketplace Editor Kathleen Devaney, former U.S. News and World Report correspondent Tom Almestad, Chicago Tribune columnist and editorial writer Steve Chapman, The Week columnist Shikha Dalmia, former National Journal correspondent Bruce Stokes, who is also the husband of Biden's Deputy Secretary of State nominee Wendy Sherman. Sherman has also taken China-United States Exchange Foundation trips. While those names represent a fraction of the journalists taking China-United States Exchange Foundation trips, the influence of the program on the participants' subsequent reporting is easily recognized. Shikha Dalmia, the columnist for The Week, penned an op-ed titled "China Bashing is for Losers" the same year she traveled to China. New York Times reporter Brad Plumer has also complimented the CCP's climate change efforts, writing pieces titled "China's Ambitious Plan to Limit Carbon Emissions Explained." Former National Journal correspondent Bruce Stokes has shared articles warning that decoupling from China would backfire, and Catherine Rampell wrote for The Washington Post, "Opinion: Team Trump should be careful what it wishes for on China." Vox co-founder and New York Times columnist Ezra Klein complimented the Chinese Communist Party's COVID-19 response, tweeting, "I keep hearing that China bought us some real time and our government wasted it doing nothing and downplaying the threat." Fellow Vox co-founder Matthew Iglesias also tweeted about wanting to give party flunkies notes on how to better craft propaganda that Moody's, S&P, and the People's Bank of China should just run the government. At the time of the trip, Iglesias was a blogger with the Center for American Progress, home to many members of the Biden White House, and counts Stacey Abrams as a board member. Chicago Tribune columnist Steve Chapman, who also crusaded against Trump's trade war, tweeted that China may have a bad human rights record, but you don't have to take off your shoes for airport security. Chapman also wrote a now deleted article that outlined the case for buying U.S. Olympic outfits from China. Steve Clemens, who has been praised by Biden, used to work for The Atlantic and is currently an MSNBC contributor and editor-at-large for The Hill. He was part of the press pool covering then Vice President Biden's 2013 trip to China. Clemens, who has written articles proclaiming Biden gets China, has also tweeted about the development of a new global order with China as the anchor. Shanghai World Expo is huge, worth the effort, even on 100-degree days. Demonstrates a new global order in the making with China as the new anchor. Finally, we have an exciting announcement. Those of you who have been with us on this journey know that we have been demonetized by YouTube since the day Biden went into office. We are also heavily monitored and censored here, so we can't cover certain topics or say sensitive words. It has been a tough road since January 20th, but we are determined to continue our fight to bring you the truth. That is why we started building our own membership site, so we can survive and continue reporting the truth. I am proud to announce that the Front Page membership site is now live. I want to thank all of you for being patient. I also want to thank the team and all those who helped make the site come true. This includes those who donated, helped spread the word, and those who helped provide feedback. We will continue to be on YouTube because everyone deserves to know the truth. We need to reach out to those who have not been with us through these legacy platforms, because among those who do not know the truth yet, they are our friends and family and good people who are simply deceived by the mainstream media and education systems. Our publishing schedule on YouTube will change, however, because we will put our exclusive or sensitive content on the membership site. I can't wait to connect with you on our very own site. I'll see you over at frontpageshow.com. Again, it's frontpageshow.com. Okay, this is our show for today. Thank you for watching Front Page, and we will see you next time.